Hello, Year 5, Miss Warren here. Hope you're well. It's been so amazing to see so many of you sending in your wonderful sentences about space from the last English lesson. Now, today we're going to be looking at some poetry and we're going to be looking at some poetic features. So let's get into it.
Okay, so this is the starter task for this lesson. Have a look at these words. What could they be describing? So I'm going to read them out to you now. So we've got the word glowing, deadly, pendant, orb, dangerous, bright, and charging. And once you think about what they could be describing, are there any words that you think could be enhanced? Pause the video here and have a think. Welcome back. Hope you've had some time to think about those questions, and I'm going to tell you what these words were describing. They were describing a planet, and I wonder if you got that too. Okay, let's move on. This lesson we're going to be exploring how writers use figurative and expressive language to create images and atmosphere. So we're going to have a look at a few poems and look at the poetic features and figurative language they use within them and how it helps to create an image within our minds. We're also going to be focusing specifically on what a metaphor is. Before we get into that, we need to recap what is figurative language. Now, figurative language is when we use a word or phrase that does not have its normal, everyday, literal meaning. So there are a few different ways in which we can use figurative language, like for example through metaphors, similes, and personification. Now, what is a metaphor? Now again, it's my turn, I'm going to explain this to you. So a metaphor is a figure of speech in which a word or phrase is applied to an object or action to which is not literally applicable. So we've got a comparison to something else that isn't actually a proper comparison. So you're saying one thing is the other. So I am a busy bee, you are a superstar, and the sun is a light bulb. Could you pause the video here and create your own examples of metaphors that could be about absolutely anything? So that's your turn. Pause the video here. Welcome back. Hope you've had some time to write your own metaphors, and I can't wait to see the ones you've written down. Now let's have a bit of a recap about these features. So what are these features? I'm going to read down these sentences. I like to have a think whilst I'm reading down what features within these sentences could be. So the first one is the moon shone as bright as a star. The second one, Mars charged through the solar system, an angry warrior. 3. Pluto was a forsaken clock, a ticking time bomb. And 4, a peaceful, calming aura encased it. So I want you to pause the video here and think about what features, figurative language features, are used within these sentences. Hopefully you figured out which figurative language features are used within these sentences. So the first one is, the moon shone as bright as a star, is a simile. When we're describing something like or as something else, that is a simile. The second one is personification. That is because we've used the verb charged, making Mars seem human-like. So personification is making an object that isn't human seem human through the features that we include. 3, Pluto was a forsaken clock, a ticking time bomb was a metaphor. We're saying something is something else. And the last one is an expanded noun phrase where we've got 2 adjectives to a noun. Okay. Let's have a look at these 2 stanzas. Now, stanzas are basically, in quote, paragraphs in poems. We use stanzas because that is the correct terminology. So which stanza do you prefer and why? So I'm going to read them out to you now. So we've got, the moon is a big ball going round the earth, bouncing round dark space. And we've got the second one, which is, the moon is a forsaken clock orbiting the earth, consuming the flustered seconds of time. Now, whilst you're thinking about which stanza you prefer, think about the features in the stanzas. What do they include? Pause the video here for me. So which stanza did you prefer? I'm hoping we're all in agreement that we all preferred the second stanza. The second stanza has more engaging adjectives, and yes, they do both have metaphors, but the second metaphor about it, describing it or comparing it to a forsaken clock, is much more interesting. Also, it has the verb consuming, which makes the moon almost have this human-like feature, which is that element of personification. So, let's have a look at this poem. So this is 6 Ways to Look at the Moon by Pi Corbett. So it's on my turn, I'm going to read it out for you. So, the moon is an Olympic stadium for the intergalactic races. Planet jumping, star throwing, meteoric vaulting. The moon is a cyclops' eyeball, impassionate as a Death Star. The moon is a Titan's silver boomerang, transfixed forever. The moon is a silver coin, tossed, heads or tails, wins or fails. The moon is a polar bear's eye, the Arctic fox's paw print, the tip of a snowshoe hare's nose. The moon says, tonight's okay. I want you to pause the video here and have a look. Can you see the key on the bottom right hand side where I have my adjectives, verbs, metaphors and similes? I want you to see, before I show you what I found from this poem, whether you can see if you can identify any of these features. So pause the video here and have a look for them for me. Hope you've had some time to have a look at these features and to try and find them within the poem 6 Ways to Look at the Moon. Now, these are the features that I have found. So as you can see, the ones in pink are all the metaphors. We've got the moon is an Olympic stadium, the moon is a silver coin, and all of these are describing something, the moon, that is something else. However, there is one in blue, impassionate as a Death Star. Now that is a simile because we're saying it is like or as something else. We can see obviously we've got those different adjectives. We've got intergalactic races, Death Star, silver boomerang. We're describing the nouns, and obviously we have all these verbs: jumping, throwing, vaulting, transfixed, tossed, says. So again, if you have any or identified any new words within this poem, write them down. So this might be useful for when we're writing your own poems towards the end of the week. So this is the poem I want you to identify the features in for me. So the poem is called What is the Sun, and it's by Wes McGee. Now, if you're not sure about any of these words or any of them are new words to you, remember to write them down. So it's my turn. I'm going to read it out to you. What is the sun? The sun is an orange floating dinghy sailing across a calm sea. It is a gold coin dropped down a drain in heaven. The sun is a yellow beach ball kicked high in the summer sky. It is a red thumbprint on a sheet of pale blue paper. The sun is a milk bottle's gold top floating in a dark, shimmering puddle. Now, you will need to come back to this slide to look at the features. So these are your chili challenges for this lesson. So I want you to write an example of each of the features in the key to the right hand side, not below. So the poetic features are metaphors, expanded noun phrases, verbs and nouns that are used instead of the sun. So if you can find more than one example of each, that would be fantastic. Chili 2, I'd like you to find a line you think is the most effective in either poem, so either the poem which is What is the Sun, or the poem 6 Ways to Look at the Moon. So you'd have to go back to have a look at those. And then Chili 3, I'd like you to do Chili 2, as well as comparing the two poems. Think about the features that are used in both of the poems, which one might be better and why, and just compare them, but specifically looking at the features. Don't say that you like one more than the other just because you do. I want you to say why using the examples from the poetic features.
That is everything for today's lesson, Year 5. I can't wait to see all the poetic features you find in the poem What is the Sun, and which poem you prefer as well. See you tomorrow, Year 5. Stay safe.